Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday from our house in New York City. And I'm Kathleen Tagg.
And I'm David Krakauer.
And this is the first of our weekly morning series. And every week we're going to have an incredible guest with us who we just love, admire, respect.
Yes, and whose music we play, and somebody who has been featured on our Table Pounding Records or Table Pounding Music project.
And our very first one, who I'm absolutely thrilled to have, is the amazing clarinetist, band leader, composer, person extraordinaire, Kinan Azmeh from Israel.
We'll be featuring your composition November 22nd. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece?
Absolutely. It's incredible that actually we're having this conversation while staying at home, because I think the piece is actually inspired by the concept of home and the notion of home. And it was inspired by an event. I was invited, after 6 years of being in New York, I was invited for my first Thanksgiving dinner. And this wonderful family invited me, and I felt incredibly at home. And interestingly enough, it was the first time that I felt at home away from home. And it's an interesting feeling. I think some of us feel awkward having that, this kind of intense feeling while you're away from home. And actually you start to wonder if, am I betraying my original home if I feel at home elsewhere? And then I guess, years go by, and then you realize that the more at home you feel in a variety of places, the richer life you lead. And I started to process this whole notion of home and thinking, what did I miss of home the most? And it was the sound of a marketplace that used to exist behind my parents' place back in Damascus. It had a steady rhythm to it. I think in a similar way of how life is, I think life tends to have a rhythm or a pulse that keeps on moving regardless of our emotions about it. So the piece is inspired by that. It has a steady rhythm, and people's feelings float freely on top of that.
Actually, this is a great time to share a bit of music. And for today, what we're going to do is you're going to have a clip of Kinan playing and hear it from the original source. And then we're going to go to what we did with it, a live video from the Pirbule Saal in Berlin.
Just to be clear, what I wrote down is maybe 20% of what the piece ended up, the shapes that the piece ended up taking over the years. I ended up doing like an orchestral version. I play it often with my band. I play it often with my piano duo partner, and I think this is the most exciting for me as a composer in this context. That you write something and it's very simple, and you give it to somebody, and what they ended up doing with it. A version, for example, that you have is something that is beyond what I had in my mind. When I wrote it, becomes like a new composition actually altogether.
This was the very first of all the pieces in what became our Breath and Hammer project and our Breath and Hammer album, and it was the starting place for figuring out how we actually were going to work. And you trusted us to do something that was never going to sound like you, but allowed us to bring ourselves to it and to make something new. And for us, that's really what excites us the most. You gave us the form and you gave us the lead sheet and gave us the freedom to do something else.
You know what is amazing? The complexity of what you guys went through for like in the making of this. The result doesn't sound complex for the sake of complexity. Yes, it sounds like like an orchestra of unknown instruments, and like almost a standard orchestra. Like it should, these kind of sonorities should become, you know, a new standard sound, and I love it. And it would be nice. I don't know if you you know how you'll share that without having a video. Is like I'm very curious to know what really went into the recording process. What did you insert where in the piano, and you know how you're like bowing the strings and throwing scarves and stuff in the bag of toys that you brought to the recording session. And same for you, David. You know, trying to superimpose all these things that you've recorded.
And Kinan, did you decide on a charity?
There are two organizations, and both are, you know, are dealing with at least partially dealing with teaching art and art making and creativity for displaced populations, whether refugees in other countries or people who are internally displaced.
So take a look at the links on the side, and please check out the music and check out the links. And this is the very first of our Sunday concerts, and connecting with all of you from our home.